My name is Pamela, and I am 25 years old. I grew up in a town where everyone knew everyone, which sounds comforting until you realize it means rumors travel faster than truth. The trouble started the day my parents decided I needed to be taught a lesson. I still remember the exact words that later haunted every corner of my life. My parents told every employer in town that I was a thief. I couldn't get hired for 2 years. Dad said, "Maybe now you'll learn to respect us." At the time, I didn't know those words would become a curse they stamped onto my name. It began with a simple argument, one of many. I was working part-time at a grocery store while saving to move out. My mother accused me of taking money from her purse. I hadn't. I tried to explain, begged her to listen, but my father had already decided I was lying. He said if I thought I was so grown up, I could face the world on my own. The next week, I was fired. The manager wouldn't even look me in the eye when he told me. Later, a friend whispered that my parents had come in and warned him I was not trustworthy. That was only the beginning. Every job application after that ended the same way. Friendly smiles, promising interviews, then silence. Or worse, polite rejection emails that felt copy-pasted. Once, an interviewer accidentally let it slip. "We heard some concerning things about your honesty." I felt my stomach drop. I confronted my parents, shaking with anger and fear. Dad didn't deny it. He crossed his arms and said it was for my own good. That humiliation would make me obedient. That was when he said it again, slower this time, like he wanted it burned into me. "Maybe now you'll learn to respect us." 2 years passed like that. 2 years of watching my savings disappear, of lying awake at night calculating how long I could survive on instant noodles. Friends stopped calling because I never had money to go out. Some of them believed the rumors too. In a small town, once the word thief sticks to you, it becomes your shadow. I started questioning myself, wondering if I really was the problem, if I deserved this punishment. The only person who never treated me differently was my grandmother. She had raised me for long stretches, when my parents were too busy. She used to say that truth has a long memory, even when people pretend to forget. Before she passed away, she squeezed my hand and told me, "Pamela, no matter what they say about you, remember who you are." I didn't know then how literal those words would become. By the time I was 25, I was exhausted, emotionally hollowed out. Then last week, something finally changed. After countless rejections, I got a call for a job interview at a mid-sized logistics company just outside town. I almost didn't go. Experience had taught me not to hope. Still, I ironed my only decent blazer and practiced answers in the mirror. I told myself this was just another attempt, nothing more. The interview started normally. The HR manager asked routine questions, nodded, took notes. I felt that familiar tension building, waiting for the moment my parents' poison would surface. Then the door opened. A man in his early 50s walked in, confident, calm. The room shifted instantly. The HR manager stood up. "This is our CEO," she said. My heart pounded. He looked at me for a long moment. Not the judging stare I was used to, but something closer to recognition. Then he said words I never expected to hear. "Before we start, I need to give you this. Your grandmother left it with strict instructions." For a second, I thought I had misheard him. My grandmother had been gone for years. The CEO reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick yellowed envelope. My hands trembled as he placed it on the table in front of me. He handed me a sealed envelope dated 15 years ago. The date was written in my grandmother's careful handwriting. The room felt unreal, like I had stepped into someone else's life. My parents' voices, the accusations, the years of rejection, all of it crashed together in my chest as I stared at that envelope. I didn't open it yet. I just sat there, realizing that whatever my grandmother had planned, it had been waiting patiently while my parents tried to destroy me. And for the first time in years, I felt something unfamiliar rise inside me. Not fear, not shame, but the quiet certainty that the truth was finally catching up. The CEO waited while I stared at the envelope, my fingers hovering above it like it might disappear if I touched it. The room was silent except for my breathing. Finally, with a nod from him, I broke the seal. Inside were several documents neatly arranged and a handwritten letter on top. I recognized my grandmother's handwriting instantly. My chest tightened as I read her words. She wrote that 15 years ago she had foreseen this exact moment. She knew my parents' nature, their need for control, their willingness to sacrifice their own child's reputation to feel powerful. In her letter, she said she was afraid they would one day try to destroy me, socially and financially, so she prepared. Beneath the letter were notarized statements, copies of recorded conversations, and sworn affidavits from people I didn't expect, former neighbors, old employers, even a distant cousin who had once worked with my father. All of them confirmed the same thing, that my parents had been spreading lies about me, calling me a thief, warning people not to trust me. The CEO cleared his throat and explained. My grandmother had been one of the earliest investors in the company, back when it was just a risky idea. She had left these documents with him and the board, with strict instructions. If I ever applied for a job and was rejected because of character, concerns, they were to intervene. He looked straight at me and said, "Your reputation was damaged deliberately. We verified everything." My hands shook as I flipped through the papers. There was more. Bank statements, showing my grandmother had set aside a trust in my name. One she kept secret from my parents. Not enough to make me rich, but enough to protect me if I was ever left with nothing. She had written, "This is not revenge, Pamela. This is protection." Tears blurred my vision. For 2 years, I had believed the town's judgment meant I was worthless. Now, sitting in that office, I realized someone had believed in me so deeply that she planned for my worst. Day long before it arrived, the CEO leaned back and said words that still echo in my head. "We're offering you the position, not out of sympathy, but because you deserve a clean start." I nodded, unable to speak. After the interview, I walked out of the building feeling lighter than I had in years. But the story didn't end there. News travels fast in small towns, especially the kind my parents love. Within days, people started asking questions. Why was I suddenly working at one of the most respected companies around? Why did the CEO personally escort me on my first day? The whispers shifted direction. Then the truth came out. The company's legal team, following my grandmother's instructions, sent formal notices to every employer my parents had contacted. The letters clearly stated that the accusations against me were false and documented as malicious defamation. Some employers apologized, others avoided me out of shame. My parents, however, couldn't hide. They were called in by a lawyer. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. Dad tried to laugh it off at first, until the recordings were played, his voice saying, "Tell them she steals. She needs to learn respect." That sentence, the same one that ruined my life, now destroyed his credibility. Mom cried. Dad went silent. For the first time, they weren't the ones controlling the narrative. They tried to contact me afterward, calls, messages, even showing up at my apartment. I didn't answer. I didn't need closure from them. I already had something better, proof, dignity, and a future that was finally mine. Sometimes I think about how close I came to giving up. How easy it would have been to believe their version of me forever. My grandmother understood something. My parents never did, that real respect is earned through love, not fear. She played the long game, trusting that truth would wait until I was ready to receive it. Now, when I walk through town, people look at me differently. Not with suspicion, but curiosity, even admiration. And every time I pass an old store that once rejected me, I remember that sentence that started it all. My parents told every employer in town that I was a thief. I couldn't get hired for 2 years. Dad said, "Maybe now you'll learn to respect us." They thought they were writing my ending. They didn't know my grandmother had already written a better one. If this story moved you, if you believe that patience, truth, and quiet strength always win in the end,